Hello, class. I'm going to review your LinkedIn and resume final writing project. First, let's start with LinkedIn. Of course, first you have to go to the LinkedIn webpage, linkedin.com. So let's go there. Now, I already have a profile, but when you go there, it'll ask you to either log in to the profile you already have, or you'll go and create a profile using your email address. Now, in order to get, if you click on my profile, you can see I created my own custom URL using my name. To do that, you click on the me in the top right corner and view profile, which we already are. And then if you look up here, you'll see it says edit public profile and URL. Click there. And you can personalize the URL for your profile. Now, I used my first and last name. Some of you may not be able to do that if you have a very common first and last name combination. Just make it as close to the first and last name format as you can. Okay, so I am fine. Now, as you can see, this page also shows your activity as well as your public profile and portfolio for everyone. Now that you have a URL with your name, you need to have a professional style photo. Now, this was one I actually had done while I was working in a professional photography studio. You do not need to have something quite like this. However, something that's better than you doing a duck face in a selfie would be preferred. And after you create your URL photo, you can use a background photo if you want. This was one I took in a church and I wanted to display it here. You can also, you will also need to write a little bit about yourself. So go ahead and fill out the about section. And after you have a couple of sentences explaining who you are or what you want to do with your work skills. Now remember, this isn't like Tinder or something else. This is supposed to be for to help you get a job. So focus on work and making yourself look as great as possible for the type of work you want to do. In the featured section, you're able to include any social media sites. If you have your own website, you can include a link here. You also need to include a copy of your resume, which we will review after the LinkedIn portion is finished. And after you finish the featured section, you basically copy some of the information from your resume into your experience. And you want to include your highest level of education if you are still, well, obviously, most of you are still continuing at UL. So you would want to say that you're a continuing student at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And if you have any relevant volunteer experience, include that as well. And as you continue on LinkedIn, people will include skills and endorsements and recommendations. All right. Now, once you're finished here, copy your LinkedIn URL and you are going to paste it into your resume. Now, your resume starts, of course, with your name. You don't have to put your full address. I personally dislike doing so, but most jobs do want to know where you are currently located because they may or may not be able to help you with a relocation option. Or if they want you to start tomorrow and the job's in South Carolina, let's say, it would be extremely difficult for you to start tomorrow. So go ahead, put your name, city, state, zip, and an email address that includes some or all of your name. This is the one that I use the most whenever I am applying to jobs. You can also use a first name, last name at Gmail. That's very helpful as well. Don't use the one that you use for everyday stuff, ordering on Amazon or whatever. If it's something other than your first and last name, it looks extremely unprofessional. And I can't tell you how many recruiters I've spoken to who said they have passed people for those types of things on their resume. Okay, now for you guys, you may not want to start with your professional section. I have several different types of job experience related to media and broadcasting. So I put my professional experience first. You may want to include your education instead. Until I had a couple of years working, I didn't really want to put the best thing about me was my education. So at first, you may want to have your education and then professional experience. However, if you do have some experience, please go ahead and put that first. And you want to make it very obvious for the person reading your resume. So in my case, I put professional, bold, center, and then to the right, my most recent position. So you'll start with your most recent education or position. And here it's university instructor. And you want to say where, University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And what is my official title? And then also on the left-hand side, you'll line up at the very least, you usually want to include the years you were there. Most people aren't super picky about the month and day you started. They really want to know an approximate time period when you worked in this position. So I have that information here. And then in bullets under each heading, so after we do university instructor, where was I instructing? What is my title? When was I doing it? You have brief explanations about what you did there. So for adjunct instructor, I have online asynchronous instruction via Zoom, Moodle, and Top Hat, and teaching introductory media writing and speech presentation. Okay, so that one's done. Now, as you can see, since this is something I am still doing, I've used the present participle, which is the ing, so teaching, and I made sure to use an action word. Now, each time you include information in your resume, you want to make it very active. If it's a position where you're still doing it, it's an ing ending. So editing, proofreading, selecting, assisting. Those are things that I still do in a position I currently have. As you can see under the academic researcher heading, I do have two different sections. I have the part when I was self-employed and when I was employed by the university. Now, the university position was one I held while I was a graduate assistant. So I use the past tense. I assisted in academic research. I am no longer assisting in this research. I do other stuff now. I taught audio production. I am not currently teaching it. So you get the picture. And then, of course, I had morning show producer, You want, now, of course, you do want to start with your most recent and relevant experience and work backwards from there. Now, I did say we want to start with our most recent experience and work backward. However, since under the academic researcher heading, I did have both self-employed experience and experience at UL as a graduate and research assistant. I lumped those two together since they are the same type of work. And then even though this kind of overlaps a little, my morning show producer experience has its own subheading. All right. And as you can see, each of these positions where I no longer work there, I am using the past tense. And after I finished my volunteer experience, I explain my education. Now, I, of course, graduated from UL with a Master of Science in Communication. And I explain a little bit about what I did while I was finishing my degree program. In this instant, I had to write a thesis in order to graduate. So I wrote a thesis, analyzing product placement in Latino and US music videos. Now, and of course, as you can see here, I presented it. So anything really big, if you have any accolades associated with your graduation or specific items you may want to mention, if you're part of an honor society or some other prestigious organization, you want to mention it there. All right, and under my education area, I have a skills overview. Now, whenever I created the skills overview, I kind of lumped everything together. So I'm going to show you how to break it up a little more, make it more palatable for any potential employers while still explaining that you do have other skills. So, okay, now as you can see, I've retooled the skills overview area. And what I did is, since the majority of my work has dealt with software, I broke it down into office, instructional, and media software. So this way, whenever I either enter this into a job filing resume program, or if a recruiter actually picks it up and looks at it, it'll be much easier for them to understand and figure out which of these skills are most important to them. Now, I also had a couple of other skills I did not include but felt were relevant, such as having worked with digital SLR cameras and video cameras, as well as having experience with AP, ABA, and Chicago guidelines and styles. Now, a final section you may or may not want to include is portfolio samples. I did include a couple of links to items I have listed on Vimeo. Vimeo is generally considered a more professional video posting area. Usually, if you are a film student, you should include your work on Vimeo more than on YouTube. A number of people say that they feel like a person is more professional if they have it on Vimeo compared to YouTube. There isn't anything against posting it on both of them. So if you can, you may want to do so. All right, I hope this answers all of your questions about creating your resume and creating your LinkedIn profile. Please message me if you have any questions about this material. Thank you.